Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to another Bad Batch Season 2 predictions and speculation. We are talking about episode 10 of Season 2, Retrieval. So we will give you all of our predictions and speculation on what we think will happen in episode 10, Retrieval, and everything else we think might happen along the way of Season 2 as we approach its ending. But before we do so, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for continued Star Wars content. Try to get this video to about 30 likes. That'll really help us out with the algorithm. And subscribe to our channel so that we can get to 1,500 subs. That's our next goal, and we are inching our way there. Your subscriptions really help out our channel and help us get to give you guys more great Star Wars content moving forward. Make sure you're commenting below and letting us know what you think will help happen in Season 2, Episode 10. All right, so we're going to dive into our predictions here. And Episode 10 is called Retrieval. I think this is the easiest one by far we've had to do, especially because this episode piggybacks off of the last one. It's the first one that we've gotten that is part of a two-part arc that we haven't had to do predictions for, after seeing both episodes at the same time. Episode 1 and 2 both came out at the same time. 7 and 8 came out at the same time. 10 is the first one we get to speculate after kind of having a sense of the direction we're going in. And I think right off the bat, I can guarantee it. I'm going to say it before you can, so I can get the slam dunk. They're going to try to retrieve their ship. That's the direction they're going. I'm really confident this time. I think I've nailed it. But Sanak, what are your thoughts on what retrieval means?
Well, I mean, that more than likely 90 to 95% of whatever happens in the next episode is going to be focused on them figuring out some sort of plan and springing into action to retrieve their ship, especially after Omega's emphasis on it's our home. It can't just be another ship to replace, like Tech was telling everyone. And yeah, I mean, that's basically where I could stop. But I will say that these 2 episodes in this arc, and maybe there's a chance of it being a 3-episode arc, like something in the Clone Wars. I would love that, but I think these are the first episodes where a slightly philosophical take, a slightly figurative take on what the titles mean could actually work out here. When we talk about the crossing, it's literally them just crossing, trying to get out of that cave system to get to that settlement, that spaceport before they can begin their plans and make their contact with Sid. That is what episode 9 was about. But there is also a bit of a crossing into what does it really mean to be the Bad Batch now. In a way, especially with how convoluted the Bad Batch's story has been because of both the Clone Wars cancellation and then them getting their own TV show and having a lot of their characters' POV still followed around in one-off episodes or whatnot. It's kind of hard to see that immediately, but I think after reflecting a little bit, I think there is some substance to that because a big point that Tech brings up is that hey, we have Crosshair and Echo both leaving, and I have to respect that. And I mean, that gets me thinking like, okay, the crossing there for them is like, yeah, we've already gone through these iterations of the batch, but we've kind of just let it happen. Now, we've not only like swift added first we added a person, then we lost one person, then we lost another person, and we've never been less than 5, right? Omega is now like one of their core members, and instead of just being an add-on, and like this could be what the tagline was for the celebration poster, the long road ahead. This could be them finally crossing into like dealing with like, hey, we can't just call it business like always. Now we have to really deal with these family dynamics being like a year or something into this first year of the empire. That it's a crossing there. So in that same way, when I think about the retrieval, yes, we are getting the ship, but I think we're also trying to figure out like, are we figuring out our purpose? Like, what are we now? We're trying to resurrect something on what this Bad Batch could be. I think there's also a chance for retrieval to connect back to Sid with that end tag. Does she actually make an effort to retrieve them? Is this something where on her way to, slowly getting to them, she maybe is contacted or is threatened to, she needs to give something in return for earlier in the season misgivings? And while she presumably tells the Batch that she's there to retrieve them, but she's actually springing them into a trap where the Empire gets hold of the Bad Batch and for Republic commandos, right? That could be pretty interesting, especially for maybe a Mount Tantus project dealing with a lot of these mutated clones, which they don't really have the basis for, right? They just have the technology and the scientists, but not necessarily the genomes and everything and what that. So yeah, if we're really stretching it, I think that's what that title could be. I don't believe it will with the current record that we've had so far, but I'd like to think that some development in figurative and metaphorical sense of these titles is happening in the very first episode that directly will follow up and isn't just the premiere or 7 and 8, which were just complete one-off episodes.
Yeah, I love the optimism and I love trying to connect there. I think you give a lot of different great directions we can go. Sid betraying the Bad Batch would be super interesting. I think it's something that I really don't see happening just because of her lack of involvement with, wanting to get involved with politics or the Empire and the questions that it would pose to her. I think, that's more of a bluff to where like, the Empire's like, well, you've been basically employing these guys for the last year or two, uh, you're under arrest too. I think it could backfire on her hard. Uh, yeah, I think I'm going to stick with the simple route. Retrieval, they're going to get their ship back, but it is going to be more than that. And I think the crossing is more metaphorical after this next episode. I think we are moving away from at least these types of episodes because I don't know how much more like I mentioned in the review, I don't know how much more connecting and character building we can give to Tech once he's kind of established himself as like a friend of Omega. That seems to be the bar that you need to like become a central character in the Bad Batch. So now that he is building a rapport with Omega and now that he kind of has a relationship with her, now that she can like look to him and they can have their like inside joke or like their moment where they can give each other a wink. And also it was nice to kind of get behind Tech's goggles. Like he actually talks about his emotions, which was nice in that last episode. And I think we're moving beyond the character building for the batch. That doesn't mean we aren't going to touch on another character that we're going to focus on the whole episode and build from them. But I would really like to see us move on to the Empire. I don't think we're getting Empire next episode, unless, and this was going to be the next question I posed to you, is the person who stole the Bad Batch's ship someone of importance, or is this person also possibly going to sell their ship or something to the Empire that could connect back to the Bad Batch? I think that could be our transition back to the Empire, is possibly whoever the ship falls into the hands of. Now, it also wouldn't be out of the show's character to just have this be some random guy who just took it because he saw a ship and he's like, I want this ship. I'm going to take it because I need a ship and I want to get off this planet. But I think that could be a really nice way to transition once this thief figures out what they have. I think we can, possibly see it fall into the wrong hands and or this thief sell it to the wrong people or the right people, depending on which side you're on. But Sonic, do you think the thief and or the ship's whereabouts in the next episode leads to possibly some type of Imperial involvement?
Maybe. I mean, in the same way that the title could be anything but the actual reveal of the ship, I think it is a little optimistic that we have like a segue into seamlessly into the other storylines, especially because we haven't seen Crosshair since episode 3. It's been a long time. It would be 7 episodes. However, I think there is potential. I think you could see maybe in a strange twist of fate, right? Crosshair getting the ship, right? I would really like to see, what this has been described as their home by Omega. Even if the guys are saying it's just a ship to them, they have made it their place as well. It is where they're in their casual dress. It is where life is when they're not on a mission. And maybe seeing Crosshair kind of take control of the ship or be offered the ship for some mission after it's been put into like an almost like an old like police car depot, right? Hey, we can sell this to you. Maybe it's like, oh, here we can give this to you. I mean, it's not really useful for us, anyways. And that would be pretty cool to see Crosshair kind of build off of that some of that emotional questioning that he was dealing with at the end of episode 3. If you could literally see how much the Bad Batch without him has like moved on and how his surroundings have changed, that could also like trigger something in him. I think that'd be pretty interesting. When I looked at the character model for this guy, he has a mask, so it's you can't really tell who he is, but just by like the size of him, and I think it would be really fun if this was, connected to almost the pirating ways of Hondo and Naka. He does seem like that one guy from the Rebels season 3 premiere episode that they're springing from jail. Maybe this is an Ugnaught friend that is working on just some classic pirate gooding. Is like, oh, this is a valuable ship. I might as well take it. And maybe this is how we get to have Hondo in this era. And we have talked about this before. I mean, all the way back to your season 2, who you want to see characters video, Liam. Like, I think Hondo has a chance of fitting in to this storyline. I think it would be also pretty interesting to see the transition of him from being in charge of all these different bands of pirates. Even if they're always backstabbing him, he is still that leader. He still is powerful. And then where we see him in Rebels, where he's alone. He's kind of lost everything. He's lost all friendships and successes. Maybe in a strange way, we could also see like an almost like criminal parallel to what's happening to the Bad Batch as their identities changing and falling apart and all that. Maybe we see the same thing happen with a Hondo Anako. I think that would be pretty interesting. It would be a different flavor that the show desperately needs at times. And if you could tie it into the Bad Batch and tie it into the clones, which isn't really something that Hondo himself has done. He's been more Jedi focused and Rebels focused. If you could possibly bring them in and add a little bit of flavor to all these guys, right? I think he would rub all of them the wrong way. Maybe even Omega, and I think that would be necessary for them with their transition to becoming this new version. Like as you said in our episode 9 review, Omega repeats text line of like we always find a way to figure out what's next, right? In the same way, I'd like to see like them try to deal with that discovery and process while having this very wild figure. And maybe he's the guy who has their ship. Maybe he's helping them get their ship and backstabs his partner, right? I'd love something like that. This could be a fun way to be fun, but still build off of a lot of the things that we saw in episode 9 with those interpersonal dynamics. And I mean, I'm a sucker for Hondo, so I'll always want to see him.
Well, and Ugnaught could be a great connection too because of the mining part of this episode. They are trying to get stuff out of a mine. So in a way, that could be definitely a connection because also, it kind of answers a little bit of the question of like, why is there only one person on this entire planet and they stole their ship? They knew where they were going to land and they were able to take their ship. And it seems like there's only one person on the planet. And that kind of is a part of I think the comedy they are going for in this episode, in this arc of episodes, is that, it is kind of a calamity of errors. They aren't really on top of their game without a fourth member. And they've had 5 before, they've had 4 before, but they've never had 3 of the batch. So now we're here with them clearly missing a link, and they've never really been missing before. And if it wasn't Ugnaught, it definitely could connect to Hondo. We're talking about employers needed for the Bad Batch. If they move on from Sid, they could work for Hondo for a couple episodes before they go, nah, this is not going to work. That would be cool. I'd love that. I'd love to see more Hondo. I think, regardless, it also could be like maybe it's somebody that was tracking them or something, somebody who wanted to get to the batch, like, because it's still, even though it can be played for laughs, it still rubs me a little bit of the wrong way that there's literally like one person on this entire planet and they just happen to be sitting at the mine that the Bad Batch land at, and then they steal their ship. It seems a little fishy to me. So maybe somebody was dropped off to steal it. Most likely it's going to end up being nobody. And it's just some random guy who the Bad Batch are like, how did you steal our ship? And then they dispatch of this person quickly, and they move on. But it would be nice if they could tie it in. And like I said in the review, it's just nice to be able to fold one thing into another. If we can do that with the last 8 episodes of this season, just keep folding episode after episode into each other instead of making them completely episodic. They can be more like Mandalorian, where they're episodic, but there's that through line of like, we kind of know where we're inching to, even if it's the story that doesn't really tie into that. I think that would be a nice way to wrap the season up. But let us know what you think is going to happen in the Bad Batch episode 10 Retrieval. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't yet, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Comment below. Let us know your thoughts. Make sure you're staying tuned for our JFO coverage tonight. Every single Friday, we do live JFO streams and we answer your questions in person. So make sure you're following the video. We will be answering your questions. The streams usually last about an hour and a half, so make sure you join at any time. We'll be there. We'll be talking and we'll be playing Jedi Fallen Order as we look forward to Jedi Survivor. Make sure you check out our reviews. Also, every single Wednesday, we review the latest Bad Batch episodes. So if you want to know our thoughts on episode 9 more succinctly, look at our review. We posted on Wednesday, and stay tuned for episode 10 review next Wednesday. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.